Okay, everyone, I'd like to thank Tanya and the Traders Talk Live for inviting us today to present to you. My name is Gary R. Albrecht. I'm the founder and CEO of GPA Trading Services. As you can see on my title screen, this is the trading platform in which I trade from every day. I have multiple monitors, we trade with multiple time frames, and we trade all markets. I'm the creator of a one-of-a-kind, state-of-the-art software called the Market Price Anticipator software. I'm also the educator and instructor of the software, so our firm is unique because I created the software, I trade the software, and I teach the software. Just a quick bio. I've been a professional trader for 20 plus years. I'm considered a technical analysis expert. I was born with a God-given talent to read and interpret price. I was able to, at the very early age, place indicators on a chart and figure out through God-given talent which indicators work best and what types of markets for what type of trading process, meaning if you're going to be a day trader, scalper, a position trader, etc. I'm also the founder of GPA Trading Services. We founded about 8 years ago in 2010. I've educated thousands of students over the past 10 plus years. I've conducted live events, speaking engagements, platinum program. We offer one-on-one coaching and mentorships. Basically, in the trading world, we've seen it all and done it all. If you haven't had an opportunity to peruse our website, this is a screenshot of our website. We welcome you to visit it. We're very proud of what we created with our software and our live trading classes and other services. So we welcome you to visit www.gpatrading.com. Today's topic is going to be how to master the markets utilizing the all-encompassing, state-of-the-art MPA PE3 software. Just a brief disclaimer, I'm not going to sit here and read these disclaimers. Everyone's familiar with these disclaimers, but I would like to highlight a couple of points. Trading is not suitable for all people. Some markets are leveraged, and therefore it is possible to lose money deposited for a position. A person should only use funds that they can afford to lose, and that fits within their overall financial plan as developed by a qualified financial planner. We have very specific rules we consider that we say you should never risk more than 2% of your entire account balance on any one given trade. For options traders, you should never risk more than 5% of your entire account balance on any one given options trade. And bottom line is you should always adhere to strict, proper money management. Very important. Finally, all information in this presentation is for your educational purposes and should not be taken as investment advice, nor as a recommendation or endorsement to buy or sell any specific investment. Trade at your own risk. Now, let's get underway. Key components in mastering the markets is going to be support and resistance. Is going to be trend direction, not only the trend direction, but the momentum of the trend. And the way you develop and decipher the momentum of the trend is when you align multiple time frames. We call that as aligning the MPA PE3 cycles, and we'll explain what that is in just a moment. And we go one step further. Once the time frames are aligned, we go on and teach through the software as well how to understand how the lower time frames cycle within the larger time frames, and we like to refer to that as the line of progression. Now, what I want to show you is a copy of a screenshot that shows what we mean by aligning the time frames. These are our two indicators. We call it the price action indicators, the first one here, and trend momentum is number one there. So the two components of trend momentum and the price action are, it looks like to many, it's a replica of many different types of indicators. Well, this is a proprietary indicator that I basically worked with for years and years and years, and I wanted to take a little bit of everything. So as some people say, it looks like a stochastics, it looks like an RSI, it looks like a MACD, it looks like several things. And there are some similarities of all the above and then a whole lot more that's in here. So I'm not going to take all day and explain exactly how I created these, but they work. What I was looking for was to find the cycles, as these time frames will cycle from daily, weekly, monthly, 1 hour, 4 hour, etc. But the software cycles from one extreme to the other. As you notice my cursor, we have lines built in that says when you're above the red, you're overbought, or you're below the green, you're oversold. And both indicators take into consideration overbought conditions and oversold conditions. So in order to align them, you want both trend momentum 1 and 2 right here, the trend momentum and the price action, to be in the same direction, and then have it work on multiple time frames. So in this case, we can see that the monthly was aligning in overbought territory, the weekly in overbought territory, and the daily in overbought territory. And this is back in oil. So as we can see, as we align the time frames, we knew the monthly was starting to turn over, so we knew we were going to have a consistent move lower that should last for months. While the weekly started to turn, we should get consistent movement lower on a weekly for weeks, and we should get consistent movement lower on a daily for days. So this is what we mean by aligning the time frame, and this is part of when you sell rallies, and then you wait for it to rally for the time frame, the cycle, then you sell it again. We call this phenomenon slingshots, and I'm going to show you that in just a second. So we go further than just aligning the time frames. We talk about how the time frames cycle from overbought to oversold, oversold to overbought. They exhibit very specific behavior, and one behavior of following the line of progression is this slingshot phenomenon. So here's oil again with the same overbought scenario of a weekly, and you can see even on the daily it was overbought to start. That's the same swing point. We give you triggers if you like triggers for visual aid, but it's the same thing. It's telling you it's overbought, it's time to sell, or it's oversold, it's time to buy. You can see these little triggers. Well, what the line of progression is, the daily is expected to move in the direction of the monthly and the weekly, then it cycles against it, then it cycles with it, against it, with it, against it, with it, against it. And during that cycle against, this is where the formation of slingshots come in. And this is to be repeated over and over. Why would we know the daily is supposed to keep slingshotting lower? Because it's moving in the direction of a trend momentum and a PAI that's moving down on a weekly, and the direction of the trend momentum and the PAI that's moving down on a monthly. So this behavior is very easily anticipated in advance, and you can sell these rallies based on what we're calling slingshots. So yes, these two indicators, as it's just rinse and repeat, continue to do the same thing. I like gauges. I like to know when I'm at a resistance level, it's likely to hold because price is going to reverse and move lower when I see my gauges all in overbought territory, for example. Or when you're down at support and you're expecting a bounce, you want to see the indicators down oversold, getting ready to turn and hook back up. Well, the key was, instead of having to go to each time frame and say, okay, I see the monthly, I see the weekly, I see the daily, I see the 4 hour, we automated all this within our software. So the software is enlightenment for everyone because it tells you when the time frames are aligned and when they're not. So it tells you when you should trade and when you should not. In this example, it's on the pound dollar currency pair. The pound was starting to bottom in oversold territories on this monthly, and the trend momentum was in overbought territory, oversold territory, sorry. The weekly was oversold. The daily was oversold. The 4 hour was originally oversold, and it made it cycle higher as the daily started to turn, as the weekly started to turn, as the monthly started to turn. So when you get the alignment of the higher time frame, this is ideal for trades that run on for in the currency market for not just hundreds of pips, but thousands. I repeat, thousands of pips. And it's just simply aligning the time frame. Well, following the line of progression, the 4 hour is expected to slingshot higher and higher and higher. Why? Because the daily trend momentum and PAI are up. The weekly trend momentum and PAI are up. The monthly trend momentum are starting to turn up and the PAI is turning up. So this is an easy scenario that we keep buying the dips in the uptrend, expecting it to move higher because you got a lot of weight behind you with the trend momentum and the price action. And this is why this system is very unique. And again, the key was to shorten and make the learning curve easy for everyone. Well, it's pretty easy to look at a chart and go, it's easy to see this indicator's turning up and this one's turning up, and they're both headed in the same direction. As well as going to the next time frame. Yeah, the daily wasn't quite oversold, but it's turning up. The weekly's turning up, and the monthly was already starting to turn up previous month, but it pulled back. Now it's ready for its next stair step higher. So again, the same line of progression: monthly, weekly, daily, 4 hour. And even before the daily reversed over here to the right, we saw the 4 hour going to exhibit its behavior to slingshot lower first, before then it, bottomed and reversed, but we knew we could take advantage of both the down move and then reverse and go long. It's ideal for trading what? Directions. If you're a scalper, you can scalp up and down based on when the cycles end up moving. For a buy cycle, you go long, and when they're overbought, turning over, a sell cycle. All right, so it's pretty simple to see what this does. Now let's go to the charts and see the real thing. We'll start off with this pair, the pound dollar. Remember what I said, when you end up aligning a monthly with the trend momentum and a PAI up, we're up 2,117 pips. Those of you that seen me present previously, we weren't up that much. It keeps getting higher and higher and higher and higher. As you can see, price keeps climbing. Well, why can we anticipate that in advance to take advantage of these moves? Because the alignment of the multiple time frames. The monthly was overbought, the weekly was overbought, starting to reverse, and the daily was overbought, starting to reverse way back over here to the left. I mean, we were in this entry way at 1.62, and we're up at 183.5, which is your 2,100 pips, 2,100 plus pips. Well, all that was simple alignment. And we use our trade management system. This is what's unique about our system. These indicators are built into the trade management system. So the trade management system is aware when they're aligned. It knows when they're oversold, getting ready to move higher. It knows when they're overbought, getting ready to go lower. And it knows when the time frames are aligned. So the software is unique because it looks left, meaning left to the chart, meaning the time frames, and it knows what the lower time frames are doing. And then it looks to the right to know what the higher time frames are doing. So we automated this system. So based on what the indicator does when it turns in hooks, for example, it means the time frames are aligned. When it slingshots, this little phenomenon where it slingshots higher and higher, or in a downtrend lower and lower, it's automatically aligned when the slingshots form and engage, or they form and engage to the downside, either direction. So it's all about aligning the time frames, and we did that for everyone. Automated system, and allows the system to be aware of its surroundings, so that once you see a hook turn on a daily, we automatically know the 4 hours bottoming and reversing, the 1 hour's bottoming and reversing. It's about aligning those time frames. But the reason you can go on and trade this is with our trade management system. It enters the trade for you based on whatever criteria you want to enter. So if you want to buy the, what we like to call PAI hooks or triggers, you tell the system to buy the next long trigger or sell the next short trigger. Or you could tell it to sell the next slingshot or buy the next slingshot. One thing I want to point out, the slingshot phenomenon is very unique. Price cannot move higher without slingshotting higher, and price cannot move lower without slingshotting lower. So as we go to different time frames, you'll see how this works. It keeps slingshotting lower. Why would a weekly exhibit behavior where it's stair-stepping lower? Well, it's pretty easy. The monthly trend momentum and the PAI are moving down. And then the monthly did what? Bottomed and reversed. And we started to see this big bottom reversal, and that's how we were up 2,000 plus pips. Well, isn't that interesting? Wouldn't it be nice to know every time we get a symbol of a market that's ready to have one of these large moves to be notified? Well, that's where I'm going to show you more of this trade management system in just a second, but that's where we developed these trade management systems to tie into what we call our scanners. This is our market scanner. Why is this important? Well, ladies and gentlemen, this is an important scanner because it gives you everything at a glance. It tells me everything I need to know based on whatever symbol I choose. So I got a replica of different things. We got some Forex in here. We got the NASDAQ couple of stocks, Tesla, gold, silver, S&P. This is completely customizable. So whatever symbol you want to add, you just go over here to your market watch, and whatever symbol's in here, you can add that over to your scanner. Now, what does the scanner give us? It tells us everything. Remember the direction of the trend, whether it's up or down. Is the trend momentum moving up? Is it moving down? Is it in the process of bottoming and reversing, or is it in the process of topping and reversing? That's what all these little arrows do. Green arrow straight up means it's moving higher. Green arrows partially in a 45-degree angle means this process is beginning to turn from I'll tell you exactly where it's turning from. Then it tells you, do I have a trigger, right? Remember the triggers, we're gonna show you those. It tells me when a slingshot is forming, when it's engaging. So when it engages, it goes bolded. When it's forming, it's in a light context. It tells you when you should check short. You can turn on or off whatever time frame you're interested in. Whether if you're going to be trading the higher time frame, you really don't care about what the 1 in 5 and maybe 15-minute are doing, because you're interested in aligning the big ones. Well, this tells me everything I need to know. That the euro, for example, is in the process of turning over on the higher time frames, but still moving up on the lower time frames at the moment, but it's about to start reversing. You can see here the lower time frames are moving higher, but the lowest time frame is starting to top and roll back down. So it's that transition between the cycles that this gives you an instant access to. It has built-in support and resistance. It's important. So when I see it bouncing against resistance and say, oh, that's a level it should have trouble breaking, and I'm watching my angles here and they all start flipping from green down to pink and red, then that's a time to sell. Or you get a red trigger fires. You can see some green triggers in here. You'll get red triggers, etc., when the time frame starts cycling down. Notice we got trigger arrows up with triggers higher. We got arrows down with triggers lower. It's all about the cycle, and that's what we refer to as the MPA cycle. So whether you're trading indices, Russell, etc., it's easy. We knew the Russell was going to bounce because the daily reversed. We knew the Russell was due to give us a pullback because the monthly and the weekly had started to turn over, and we were trading this to the downside. So intraday, as these lower time frames cycle, you're talking a scalper's delight. Those of you that may do day trading, when you get the little hook and cross pattern or slingshot engaging on these lower time frame, price is going to move in that direction. Right? It's just simply going to reverse the direction, give you the highest probability outcome. Again, whether it's gold, oil, any symbol you want, stocks, bonds, it's all there. Well, Gary, why is the 30-year bond continuing to go lower? Well, this is where the software earns its keep each and every day. By seeing a gauge, you learn to trust the gauge. When you drive your car, you look at your fuel gauge, see when you're getting near empty. You just don't assess and say, well, I think I've driven enough. Let me go fill the tank. You keep an eye on your gauges. Well, this is what the software does. And we have developed every tool within this software, and we have multiple. These are what we call our templates. These were designed for everyone's convenience. So whether I want to trade with a chart that has a lot on it, or I like to trade with a chart that has very little on it, it still gives you everything with the combination of what? The 1-2 punch. The trend momentum and the PAI, because you need these gauges to tell you what direction price is going to move. And notice in every case, when price started to turn over and head lower, it went down. When price reversed, it went up. When it went down, it went down. When it went up, it went up. And then this slingshot phenomenon is something we know to anticipate based on where are other time frames aligning. If this is going to continue to climb higher, the other time frames have to go back to oversold and reverse back up in order to cause this. So yes, this is not to confuse people to give, well, why do you have so many? It's just a matter of your personal preference and whether you like charts that have limited information on it or you like charts that have a lot of information on it. It's a personal preference. And again, we were talking about looking at triggers. This is where the system tells you when it's oversold, you get a trigger, and when you get a hook and a trigger, that is an entry to go. And it's easy to buy NASDAQ on a weekly time frame. Why? Because we knew it was going to start slingshotting, and it just repeated this behavior over and over. So what's unique about these two custom indicators is that they take into consideration all time frames. They align themselves across all time frames. The coding on this is wonderful because it looks left to know what the lower is doing, what the right higher are doing, and it helps you align those automatically through our scanner system so you don't miss the next big trade. You trade it through the trade management system. Well, this trade management system is so unique in that it's completely customizable. It is on-screen programming. So I can tell this when I know I'm in an uptrend. What is an uptrend? When you get a low, a higher low, a higher high, a higher low, a higher high. And as I move this out of the way, it's easy to see why price always moves in a stair step. You always heard that. Well, it's the ebb and flow of the market. Well, it's the time frame cycling is the reason why price will always stair step. I don't care in the strongest of trends, people could say, well, the NASDAQ's been in a definite uptrend. It goes from the left side of the chart to the right corner. This is definitely an uptrend. Yes, it is. But it's also easy as you watch the uptrend continue, we can anticipate when to buy these dips based on the slingshot phenomenon. And in every case, when a slingshot starts engages, you found support up. And when a slingshot engages down, you found resistance to sell from. So remember what we said from the beginning. You need support and resistance. You need the trend direction and the momentum of the trend. You need to align the time frames. And then you need to understand how the lower time frames cycle within the higher. Because yes, the higher time frames ultimately play out, but the lower play out first. So we anticipate that accordingly. So why is this trade management system so unique? Because I can tell it when you're in an uptrend to buy dips in an uptrend. What would that mean? You can tell it to either buy your trigger long or trigger short, or you can tell it to buy your slingshot long or slingshot short. And that is unique because what does it do for you? It allows a trader to what? As soon as I see the software reversing, I can instantly go right here and say click and drag, get in this trade, and it manages. It puts a stop loss, take profits on there. As soon as you reach your first take profit, it automatically moves your stop loss in the profit. It does everything you need it to do. From day one, it'll manage it from start to finish. Well, we got unique properties throughout. Not only can I tell it to, whenever it's in an uptrend, to ignore any downtrend. I don't want to sell anything down. I only want to buy everything back up because we're in a strong uptrend. Then you tell it to buy those slingshots, or you tell it when it cycles all the way to oversold to buy the trigger. Well, notice we don't have triggers every time it dips. Why? Because the indicators are slingshotting higher and higher. They're not going back to oversold territory. So the only way to get a trigger long is for everybody to be oversold or everybody to get a trigger short, as you see up there. 1 second, I'll change the time frame. And you'll see you start to get triggers from the top side going back down there by simply aligning the time frame cycling. So it's easy to tell when it's time to sell or when it's time to buy. It's simple by looking for your triggers, looking for your cross pattern. We call it a hook and a cross. And you put those two together and the system does it automatically for you. What's unique is if I'm in an uptrend and I say only buy triggers or buy slingshot, what if it takes like a month before the weekly turns over and moves lower, right? Several months, everybody on a weekly time frame, each candle represents a week of trading. So in this case, when this was turning over to form that slingshot back up, we could have had this system set in advance and it would have sat there in ready mode, ready to pounce as soon as 1, 2, 3, 4 weeks went by and the slingshot engaged and boom, it gets you in. Or vice versa, if you're waiting for the time frame to go back to overbought territory and it may take hours or a day or a week or whatever, it won't do anything until it represents your entry criteria. Sell a trigger, buy a slingshot, sell a slingshot. And again, this goes across all time frames. So not only is it good in any market, but it sets up our other scanner, our other scanner, which is called the Slice of Heaven Finder. And this one is the one where you set up the big time frame. This one is completely customizable. What's the difference in the two? The first one, you designate what symbols you're interested in. This one, it scans through your entire market watch, which in some of these platforms is upwards of 800 symbols. Stocks, futures, commodities, ETFs, bonds, you name it, it has it all. So this one scans through whatever symbols you want it to scan through. So ladies and gentlemen, if you're a strict stock trader and you don't trade Forex, you don't trade indices or anything else, you're just strictly stock, then you could customize your market watch to only have US stocks or European stocks or whatever stocks you're interested in from the market watch. So this will customize not only what it's scanning, but once it scans it, you can tell it what time frames you're interested to align. And you can see here, it's a 4, 1 hour, 30. Well, it's customizable. You simply go to your expert advisor, and now I can scan my time frame and say, no, I'm an investment trader. I want to trade the higher time frames, like a monthly. So you click on the monthly and it'll reschedule and rescan. But notice the number of findings. This is numerous findings that you can have. And guess what we found that allowed us to enter this trade here, the pound odd? We found the monthly, the weekly, and the daily was setting up for a big reversal. We found the pound CAD. There's just a couple of the currency pairs. The pound CAD was setting up the same way, and it's up over 1,000 pips. So it's easy to make profits with this by following the gauges. By when they turn, you enter via a trigger, if you like that, or a trigger and the hook, but it's all there for you. And why is that unique? Because when it hooks, this means that 1 hour automatically is in oversold territory turning back up, right? You can see where this started to turn, my 4 hours turning and going up. Well, as soon as this hook starts to the right of this red line, as soon as it starts to hook up, it's telling you automatically the 1 hour is bottoming and reversing. See how cool that is? And this works on all time frames. So scalpers, you focus down on the 4 hour and below to scalp, and then position traders and above, you focus on the daily, weekly, and monthly. And once they're aligned, it is a high probability outcome that you're going to get price to move higher when they're aligned to go up, and you're going to get a high probability move lower when they're aligned and they're set up to go down. And that's what we do in this class. We trade the cycles. When on our live trading, I go through and explain exactly what's going to happen during the process of this moving from one extreme to the other, and when we expect it to engage down or engage, disengage, what the behavior should be, and that's just based on the direction of the time frame. So look at the 4 hour and the 1 hour we just showed you a moment ago. The 4 hours reversing, we know price is going to bounce. Well, guess what? We tied in the same code to a Fibonacci. And whenever I get a hook and a cross pattern, which is a hook and a follow through, it's a high resolution for, or a high affinity for going to at least the sweet spot. So this is why we use a swing point high to swing point low. And I drew this on my chart during our last live class. And I told her, buy the pound CAD, it's going to go back up. Is this the one that keeps going to break new highs? Maybe not, because the 4 hours turning up and it still produced hundreds of pips higher, but the weekly is still down. So that's why I expect this will go on to slingshot higher in the coming weeks. And this pair, as I stated weeks ago, it would go up hundreds of pips. Now it's up 1,000. It still has thousands more to go as the time frames keep cycling. So the weekly did what we asked it to do, slingshot higher, and it's about to do it again. But we explain all that for you. So not only do we have the scanners that tell us when these are setting up, so you don't miss the next big move. And of course, when I set that, it was on the monthly, weekly, and daily, because I wanted the big time frames aligned so I could get in this trade and be in it for weeks, months, or even some cases years that you're in these trades for prolonged periods. Well, everybody's buzzword has been Bitcoin. Well, Bitcoin is about to bounce, ladies and gentlemen. We knew that. I told the students it's gonna bounce, expect it to bounce, and start watching. The question is, because the weekly is still down, is this going to be the reversal that goes on to make new highs, or is it just going to be reversed to our, Fibonacci sweet spot location? Well, I'm looking for Bitcoin. Once this weekly right here reverses, we get a little hook there, that's going to be when the daily starts to push a little bit more. It's just starting now, but if the daily can keep going, pushing, the weekly is going to turn, and as soon as I see the weekly turn right there, the little hook, then we're going to go up to the sweet spot. Highest of probabilities, right? Highest the probability. So guess what? That means I can expect Bitcoin to go up a few $1,000s to run up towards 11,000 from the 7,600. It's a little early, so what we like to call this process is you buy the daily hook to start, and just in case the daily hook is not the one that finishes it and it slingshots back down, we talk about buying the hook, selling the slingshot, but keep buying the next hook and the next hook and the next hook, because everyone makes money, right? This doesn't look like much, but on Bitcoin, you're talking it's moving hundreds upon even $1,000+ moves on these little hooks. So you buy the hook, you sell the slingshot, and eventually what's going to happen? The daily is going to go up, and it's going to cycle all the way back to overbought, which in turn is going to force the weekly to turn up, and we're going to get weeks of upside pressure. And as that stair-stepping higher, we have targets, all wrapped up into a Fibonacci. So everything we use, every tool, and this is just a fraction of the tools we truly have, but every tool ties into the trend momentum and the PAI. It ties into the trade management system. It ties into our scanners. It ties into everything we need. Slingshot, triggers, hooks, everything you need is there. And to this other scanner, where you're trading from the chart or you're trading from the scanner, it's all included. All direction cycles, how many pips you're up or down, what's the average daily range, whether you have a trade open or close, support and resistance, everything you need is at a glance. All right, so let's continue. Well, let's look at some trading results. Here's the trading results. We have gold. This is not just a couple of dollar move on gold. This is a $126 move higher on gold. Here's one, $150 move lower on gold. All we're doing is aligning the time frame, getting a trigger and a hook and going, and then selling slingshots continuation moves. Here's a student that used our Slice of Heaven finder. He started trading multiple currencies based on the findings that were found from our Slice of Heaven finder. He tallied up 8,600 pips. Because the monthly and the weeklies in the Slice of Heaven finder was still showing much further upside, or in the trades, he let them run, and they went from the 8,000 to over 18,300 pips. And here it is in this TradeStation platform where he placed the corresponding trades from our entry system, and he trades ran up to 18,000 pips. Here's gold again. This time it's a move down, and you can see we did 778 pips on the pound odd. Well, this was great because the Slice of Heaven finder found the pound odd was ready to move down, a monthly, a weekly, a daily. So we got in, made 700 pips, yes, but we knew to stay in it. So we stayed in it longer, and it grew to 1,274 pips. We stayed in it, it grew to 2,270 pips. We weren't done there. We stayed in it till it went on to 3,627 pips. All right, here's pound CAD. Both of those I showed you were up 2,000, 1,000 respectively to the upside. Here we were down on the pound CAD 3,000 pips. It's easy. You align the time frames, you allow the cycles to line up, the software tells you, you enter. You can do it automatically through the trade management system, or you can manually input the data and let the system enter it instant order through a market order and say, go long now or go short now. So it's everything you need in a trade management system. This is just the beginning. Here's the pound yen, another 3,215 pips. Well, this is another tool that I don't have time to go in great detail, but we call this a breakout trade, and it's part of the trade management system. This system is so unique that once I tell it, for London, for example, if I trade Forex in London, I can say during the first hour of London, I want to know what the high and the low is. And whether at the high and low at the end of that first hour of trading, this pops in place. And then it tells me I can tell it to buy if it breaks the high or sell if it breaks the low. If we're in a current downtrend, I can tell the system when it lines up like this, if it breaks the high, don't buy it. Only sell it when it breaks the low. And it would sit there and hold until it broke the low and then enter the trade. This tallied to 272 pips. All right, very easy, just following the system. All right, well, what are we offering today? We have a special offer for you guys today for attending today's webinar. We call it our Master Trader Program, It includes the Premium Edition 3 software, and it includes our live trading classes. We meet 3 times a week. We average about 6 to 8 hours of live trading. And during that trading period in live class, I show you the software. I explain what it's going to do, when it's going to do it, why it's going to do it. And when it does it, all you got to do is follow these steps and you're part of this trade. Or it's ready to get in now. We entered that 2,000 and 1,000 trade we're showing you now. That was entered in our trading class. And again, we meet 3 times a week, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. All right, so what is included in the software? We mentioned the scanner. I love visual aids, so here is our market scanner. Again, shows you everything at a glance, triggers, slingshots, forming, engaging, everything you need, when to buy, when to sell, where your support and resistance levels are, what time frames are where in the cycle, everything you need. Next up is the Slice of Heaven Finder. That was this one that continues to find more and more finding. Again, it's customizable to whatever time frame you want to use. I use the higher time frames because I like getting in trades and staying in trades and let them run. This is the key to let your winning trades run, align the time frames, let the system find it for you, and you get in those trades so you don't miss the next big trade. Next up is the Slingshot trade triggers. We did show you those on several of the charts, but this is the Slingshot trade triggers through the Slingshot phenomenon and the triggers that go along with it. Let's see, I believe I have one on that one. The triggers that go along with it, you have customizable to add them or take them off, whatever you prefer. But why did Amgen go up toward the sweet spot? Because we had a hook and a cross pattern, and it rallied right to our destination as we expected it would. Next up is our trade management system. Yes, that's the same trade management system that's ongoing, running these ongoing trades. They've been ongoing trades for a few months now. Obviously, you're not going to move 2,000 plus pips in a day or two unless there's some major catastrophe or some world event, but unlikely to move that fast, that's quick. So we've been in this trade for months. It's still managing it. This pound CAD trade, we've been in a little bit less, but we're still managing it. And I'm going to let it run for thousands of pips more. So in the future, when you see me present, these will be 3,000, 4,000, et cetera, as the time frames continue to cycle and follow the signs and symptoms of the cycling time frames. We also have a Platinum Asia scalping system for those of you who like to scalp. We have a triple P scalping system. It's ideal for scalpers, whether it's stocks, futures, commodities, ETFs, bonds. I don't care what you're scalping. It tells you when price is going to reverse based on those cycles. There's the breakout trade system. I briefly showed you on one of those successful trades. There's what we call a bracket system using pending orders. All that's built in your tools. You have so many tools to take advantage of, and every one of the tools are synced and coded to go back with the trend momentum and the PAI. Now, 10 reasons why we should automatically want to trade with the MPA PE3 software. Or I should rename that, why in the world wouldn't you be trading with the MPA PE3 software? It automatically calculates support and resistance. It automatically identifies the trend of each time frame. It'll automatically monitor and track the time frame cycles. It provides consistent entries, exits, take profits. It's based on the trade triggers, slingshots, profit triggers, hook and cross pattern, all that's tied in. The trade management system you can set in advance to tell it to buy the dips in an uptrend or sell the rallies in a downtrend. Or you can automatically just tell it to buy and sell instantaneous with a market order, and it'll manage your trade from start to finish. It fits any trading style. We have the dual scanners we showed you so you don't miss the next big trade. It works on 800 symbols, including stocks, forex, futures, ETFs, commodities, etc. And it consistently delivers low risk, high reward, high probability trades. Now, what's the offer we're offering today for special attendees? That is our annual trader program. In the past, we've offered from our website pricing, it's $4,997. That includes the software plus the live classes for 1 year. We've also offered a special previous promotion for $3,564, the same software and classes for 12 months. Well, today we have even a more outstanding offer. We're going to offer today's special for $2,497. You're going to get this powerful software with all the tools. You're going to get the classes for 12 months, which are all archived for your viewing pleasure. What's unique about our classes is when the time frames are aligning, if you're not in class, I'm not just giving trades that you should enter right then. I'm giving trades that may take 4 hours to form, or a day to form, or a week to form, and I show you the cycles of those time frames, so those trading ideas are good for months, like the pound odd and the pound CAD are, and will continue to be. Today, we're going to offer it for the $24.97. Tanya, if you would post that link for me, and you would just click on the link to sign up. To give you an incentive, the first 50 that sign up, you'll receive 2 years of the software and classes. Scratch that out. It'll be 24 months for the first 50 for the same one payment of $2,497. Why is that unique? If you amortize $2,400 over 24 months, basically $100 a month for this high-end, state-of-the-art software and our live trading classes. Well, guys, when we do our class, we give you the projected move and what the projected software should do, and we give you an alternative just in case the software reverses, what to look for and what signs to use, and when do you close your long trade, go short, etc., based on those cycles. All that's included for $100 amortized a month for software and classes. You will not find a better deal anywhere. So as I continue, why should you subscribe to our software? Because we offer things no one else does. Before I end, I want to thank you for attending today's webinar, and we look forward to you joining us. Remember our software, it's called the Market Price Anticipator software, and empowers you to read and anticipate price in any financial market, on time, in time, all the time. We're very proud of our business. We have over 121 countries and counting, and we've been educating students from around the world. What's unique is our students have been with us year after year after year after year. And if we were not successful in delivering consistent trades over and over, then students wouldn't be with us. Whether you trade stocks, there are hundreds of stocks to use in here, Amazon, etc. Notice it's easy to know when Amazon's going to bounce. It's easy to know when Amazon's going to pull back based on the cycle. So, in closing, I'd like to say again, Tanya, I thank you for your time and attention today. I thank you for inviting us to speak with everyone. And this special is good for $24.97. The first 50 will receive the 24 months. And that is, again, amortized over about $100 a month for software and classes. We thank you, and we look forward to you joining us, and take care. We'll see you next week.